Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all having an awesome day. So today we are going to take a look at possibly the most interesting game of the second round in White on Zay. This game is played between Vladimir Kramnik and Anish Giri. Both actually played each other in last year's edition, where Giri managed to win a nice game with the white pieces. Without further ado, let's jump into this game. So Kramnik had the white pieces, and he opened with c4, the English opening. Giri responded with e5. So we have knight c3, knight f6, knight f3, knight c6, d3, and here d5. C takes, knight takes d5, so we have a reverse Sicilian. Kramnik went e4, we have knight takes c3, b takes c3, bishop c5, bishop e2, both sides castle, bishop to b6, and a4, maybe intending a5, and if knight takes a5, then there's knight takes e5. So here rook to e8 from Giri, giving more protection to the e5 pawn. Kramnik played queen to c2, so this is a typical move in Sicilian-like structures. White is hoping to protect e4 if he achieves this d4 break, and this also allows a rook coming over to d1. So now Giri played queen f6, king h1, stepping out of this bishop's pin. We have h6, so that stops any bishop g5. And now Kramnik played knight to g1, a creative idea. So with the intention of going f4. So Giri played queen d6, he didn't want the rook to be in line with the queen. And we have f4. So here Giri reluctantly gave up his bishop for the knight, as his bishop is also on the verge of getting trapped. So if, let's say, black develops his light square bishop, bishop d7, then you can take on e5. And if knight takes, then d4 attacks the knight and also takes away the c5 square from the bishop. And if knight g4, threatening mate, then there's bishop to f4 developing with a tempo on the queen, and after the queen moves, then a5 wins the bishop. So here if bishop d7, pawn takes, queen takes, then white can play knight f3, and this gives white a very pleasant position. And the knight does a great job of controlling these central squares. So that is why Giri took on g1. Kramnik played rook takes g1. So this seems a bit strange, why not just take with the king and keep the rook watching f4, but this runs into queen c5 check. And here black has knight to d4, attacking queen and bishop. This pawn is pinned, and Kramnik probably wanted to avoid this. That is why rook takes g1. So here Giri took on f4 and d4 from Kramnik, grabbing more space in the center. This looks like a promising position for Kramnik, and if he can safely recapture the pawn on f4, then it's just going to be a very pleasant edge for white. So here Giri played knight e7. Rook f1 seems pretty natural, just preparing to take. If knight g6, then you can go e5, queen d5, bishop takes. And here white has a clear plan of going rook a to f1, attacking f7. And he can also eventually gain more space in the center with c4. So this looks good for white, but here, instead of rook f1, Kramnik played bishop a3. That attacks the queen, so queen drops back. So I should mention that here if e5, then queen g6, and white's center could then be hit with the move c5. And black can also try and blockade on the light squares with moves like knight e5, bishop e6. So e5 right away isn't that great. So bishop a3, queen back to d8. So here Kramnik's idea is to go rook a to f1. And he is hoping that these rooks are well positioned for an attack against the black king. And g3 is a move that Kramnik is hoping to play. So Giri played knight to g6, defending the pawn. So here Kramnik played e5. opening up this diagonal and also giving white options like bishop d3, bishop c4. So other moves in this position, for example bishop b5, this is quite interesting, trying to provoke c6. And the idea here is that after bishop d3, black will find it more difficult to post the bishop on this long diagonal. Sorry about that. But the problem here is that after bishop to b5, black can go bishop d7. And if bishop d3, if white ever goes e5, black can go bishop c6. So bishop b5 is interesting, but somehow it doesn't quite work. Here g3 is also an option. But in the game, e5 was played by Kramnik, and Giri played b6, a good move, trying to cause some problems for white on this long diagonal and make it difficult to go g3. So now Kramnik played bishop f3, a sensible move, not allowing black to play bishop b7. So here if bishop d3 trying to go for this knight on g6, I think black can allow that with bishop b7. So this should be fine for black, as he can try to blockade on the light squares. So it's also fine because it's opposite colored bishops, and if the position ever trades down into an ending, black should be definitely fine here. So bishop f3 by Kramnik, Giri plays bishop to a6. Giri is trying to be resourceful in this difficult position. So this move gains a tempo on the rook. I forgot to mention that black's rook is also under attack. So bishop a6, black is hoping to reposition the bishop over to c4, where it can help in the defense. So here Kramnik played rook f2. And this rook on a8 is still hanging, but Giri played the move c5. So he's giving up the exchange. And if bishop takes, queen takes a8, black is hoping that he will have enough counterplay on this long diagonal with moves like bishop to b7 and f3. So after c5, Kramnik played g3. He did not even consider taking the rook, as that would quell his initiative. But the computer doesn't think that this move is sound. It gives the line c takes d4. This is the line given by the computer. So at the end of this variation, black has rook c3 with a double attack on the bishops. So g3 doesn't quite work tactically, but not so easy to see all of this in a game, especially when you're under pressure defending, and especially against a player of Kramnik's stature. So after g3, Giri took on g3, he took on d4, and played rook to c8. This is still anybody's game. All three results are possible. So Kramnik played the queen f5, a very ambitious try lining up queen and rook on f7, and there is actually a nasty threat in the air. For example, if rook c3, black makes a pass, then queen takes f7. And if king takes, bishop d5, double check, and this is actually mate. So after queen f5, Anish kept his cool, and he played incredibly well. First bishop c4, defending f7, bishop d6, shutting out the queen's attack on d4. It seems like white has a great position, but somehow Giri has just enough resources to fight back. So here bishop e6, kind of forcing queen back to b1 to stop rook c1 check. And knight to f4, a great find from Anish. So this move highlights that white also has problems of his own, especially with the back rank, as the knight now controls g2. The knight can jump into h3 in some lines if there is a queen on g1, and this also discourages white from pushing d5. Kramnik actually surprised everyone and he played d5 anyway, but Giri captured immediately, perhaps showing that he wasn't afraid. Kramnik played queen to g1, so he is hoping that white has sufficient pressure down the g file. And with the black knight on d5, black doesn't have the option of going knight h3. So here Giri played king to h8, so such a calm move by Giri, and in fact maybe the best move in the position. So if he had played something like g6, then this would have run into rook takes, and this is actually going to be mate in a few more moves. So here g5, black might still be fine after the move h4, but this looks very scary. But here king h8 by Giri may be the best move in the position. What happens after rook takes g7? So here Giri's idea is to go rook g8 and trade down more material if rook takes, queen takes. So white would probably try to avoid a trade of queens, queen d1. But here black is more than fine after queen g5. He is also threatening rook to c1. So here if rook g8, let's say instead of taking, white goes rook f to g2. So black can actually take and play queen h4, where he is stopping white from going bishop e4 and rook to h7. So it's difficult for white to actually continue his attack. And white also has to watch out for moves like rook to c1. Black might even be able to just take this pawn here on a4. So if that happens, then black is going to be up 2 pawns, and I believe black is going to be slightly better in this position. But back to the main game, king h8. So here rook d2 from Kramnik attacking the knight, knight f4, rook d4, chasing the knight again, knight g6, and bishop e4. So if rook takes g6, here white is hoping to play bishop e4, but unfortunately queen g5 stops this idea. And here black is just up the exchange. So bishop e4 from Kramnik, and rook to c4 from Giri, forcing even more exchanges. Giri is playing absolutely brilliant defense. Here Kramnik has to take, queen d4 from Kramnik, bishop back to e6. So here bishop c6 played. If bishop takes g6, f takes g6, rook takes. So here queen c8 gives black more than enough play against the exposed king. So that is why Kramnik played bishop c6. And we have knight e7, and this is another great move from Giri. So if bishop takes e8, then knight f5. And if queen e4, then you take. Queen takes e8. The attack dies down for white, and Giri is just up 2 pawns. So after knight e7, bishop e4, controlling the square, but simply knight f5, trading down. So Giri has succeeded in exchanging of quite a few pieces, and white simply doesn't have enough firepower in this position. Not to mention that Giri is also up 2 pawns. So here king g1, bishop e6, nice consolidating move. Kramnik played h4, but black is not in any danger. Queen d7, we have queen to e4, and rook c8, and now it's black's turn to attack. So now h5 played, rook c1 check, king h2, and nice move from Giri, queen to d8. And in this position, Kramnik resigned. So Giri wants to play rook to c4, followed by bringing in the queen to h4, and white's king will be simply too exposed. What an amazing game from both players. Credit to both Kramnik and Giri for treating us with such exciting chess. So if you want to see more games from the 2019 Tata Steel tournament, feel free to subscribe to the channel. That is all for this video. Thanks for watching and have a great day.